I'm Orazio Attanasio. I teach economics here at UCL, and I'm also a research fellow at the Institute for Fiscal Studies. And at the Institute, we started a few years ago a fairly ambitious project and research agenda on trying to understand the process of human development in the early years in developing countries, and trying to design and evaluate interventions that might improve the chances of poor children growing up in those countries.
In 2007, we did a series in Lancet for the first time on child development. We estimated over 200 million kids under 5 in developing countries were not reaching anything like their potential. They have now re-estimated it, and it's higher than that now. A Bangladeshi child by 60 months of age that comes from the poorest section of the community is about 17 IQ points behind a slightly more affluent child living in the same areas.
They get to school at age 6 with a language development of 3.5 years old. So it's as if you were sending 3.5 years old to a school for 6. And the big issue that has been pointed out in the literature is that schools in developing countries are not equipped or not able to target the specific needs of children. They teach a curriculum which is designed for 6 years old. They will not adapt it. And the consequence of this is the children that get there with a very poor language development, they will fall behind, and they will fall further and further and further, and that's their life chances gone.
Namaste.
In India, we are doing an intervention that was inspired by the original work in Jamaica 20 years ago by Sally Grantham McGregor. We've done something similar in Colombia. And the idea is to change the parental practices, trying to improve the way in which mothers engage with their children at very young ages. Our children, when we start the interventions, are around 12 months old. And so the idea is to induce mothers to be more active with their children and to try to stimulate them much more.
And these activities, they range from little puzzles, games, songs, language games. Depending on the age of the child, they become progressively more complicated as the child ages.
After finishing the picture, she asked, "What is it?" And the child said that it is a flower. So what do we do with the flower? We worship God. Do you have any God? Yes, we have some God like little Krishna, Lord Shiva and Hanuman.
Traditionally, poor mothers will think that play is for children. It has nothing to do with them, you know. And why would you talk to a child? They don't, I mean, certainly before the child talks well, they think, well, it's a waste of time. That's why we need to change their mindset.
When the intervention started, Om Prakash was barely 24 months old. And he was very shy, he was inactive, and he was not talking so much. So after all the activities, Om Prakash became very confident and active.
One of the ways to motivate the mother is to let her see that the child's benefiting and give them a bit of confidence and make them realize that they can have an impact.
We work with local women that are living in the villages where the intervention is taking place. So these are women with standard level of education. They don't need to have any experience or expertise in early childhood development, but they are trained by our local partner in the intervention, so that later on we build capacity in the villages themselves, so that when we get out or we take a step back, that these women can continue playing a role in their communities.
Having local women is crucial for us because if you want to change behavior, it's important to convey the message through people they trust, the people that live with them.
we go and measure the development of the children before the start of the intervention, and then we go back after 1 year to see the progress that the children have made, and then we go back at the end of the intervention to see what impact the intervention actually has had. And the way we do this is through a randomized control trial, meaning that we do not only survey the children that do get the intervention, but we want to compare their outcomes to what we call a control group, basically a group that does not get the intervention.
The second step is to use the variation that is induced by the experiment to model behavior, to model what's happening. What are the mechanisms that generate the impacts that we see? So that's the ability of the child, right? As economists, we can take a holistic view of the whole process and trying to understand the mechanism behind certain impacts. To do that, you want to model individual behavior, you want to model how parents react to a new environment, which might include the specific intervention. And by considering these behavioral reactions, you have a better pictures that eventually will allow you to design better policies.
A lot of money is spent on feeding them, but food alone, once they're undernourished, is unlikely to benefit their development very much. It will benefit their health and their survival, but their level of cognition and ability to perform at school needs stimulation as well.
The Jamaica study is amazing because they did this intervention for 2 years on kids that, from the age of 1 to 3. And then you observe these kids 22 years later and you find that they, their wages on average are 20% higher. With the Jacobs Research Prize, we will be implementing this new intervention in India, which is a follow-up to the one that we are currently doing. Our current intervention targets kids up to the age of 3. The idea is to design a new intervention, improving the nurseries that these children will start attending at age 3 and follow them up to age 5. And that's going to be very unique.
People listen to economists. Politicians listen. Policymakers listen to economists. And they use the language that they understand. They talk about money, investment, national development, all of these words. That's what politicians want to hear.